Hallo zusammen! In this video I'm gonna translate the hit song Blinding Lights from English to German, and I'm also gonna explain some linguistic properties and aspects that are really interesting about this one. So, let's go! Blinding Lights was first released in 2019 as a single and in 2020 on the album After Hours. It really quickly has become one of my favorite contemporary pop songs in recent months. Apart from the warm synthwave retro sound, I love the melodies and especially the high production quality. It starts off with the first verse. Ich hab versucht anzurufen. Ich bin lang genug auf mich allein gestellt gewesen. Vielleicht kannst du mir zeigen, wie man liebt. Vielleicht. Ich durchlebe Entzugserscheinungen. Du musst gar nicht mal allzu viel tun. Du kannst mich nur mit einer Berührung elektrisieren, baby. The A in the English slang form tryna, trying to, would be expressed within the actual German verb anrufen in the form of anzurufen. It consists of the common verb anrufen, to call, and the added preposition zu, to, and as such, it's basically an extended verb form in indicative active. Depending on the grammatical and syntactical context, this is also a common grammatical structure for many German verbs. The placement of adverbs within sentences can also differ quite a lot. For instance, in this case, in German, lang genug, which is a temporal adverb, long enough, wouldn't be placed at the end of the sentence, which also results in pretty much switching the basic two parts of the sentence around, as you can see here. So in other words, you would actually express that the other way around. The third line shows how different the word order can be in German. Literally translated back to English from German, it would equal maybe can you me show how one loves. Maybe. Alright. I found it quite difficult to translate withdrawals properly because it can carry similar but still different kind of meanings. A withdrawal from a contract, for instance, a withdrawal from a relationship, a withdrawal from drug use, I don't know. I went with die Entzugserscheinungen. Singular would be die Entzugserscheinung, a term I guess most Germans will associate with, well, drug withdrawal, but it could also apply for various other contexts. Literally, it means detox appearance for der Entzug, the detox, and die Erscheinung, the appearance. The adverb too much could be allzu viel in German, for allzu being the exact equivalent to all too. I've translated to turn me on quite freely here. Of course, it could also be more direct, as in more sexual or erotic. My choice, elektrisieren, equals to electrify, meaning something that really gets you going, that really makes you feel really good, engaged and consciously experiencing. The pre-chorus goes like this. Ich sehe mich und Sin City ist kalt und leer. Niemand ist hier, über mich zu urteilen. Wenn du weg bist, kann ich nicht klar sehen. The first two lines are pretty much literal equivalents to one another. The expression to judge someone would be über jemanden urteilen, judging about someone, literally, in German. In this case, I chose the German infinite phrasal structure zu plus verb, in order to plus verb, which not only features the zu again, but it's also a highly common German way to express die Zweckmäßigkeit, the expedience or utility of an action. I do something in order to achieve something else. In this case, no one is there to judge the lyrical eye though, since Sin City is empty and cold. Personally, I'm a fan of keeping Eigennamen, proper names or nouns, the way they are, meaning in their original language, and not translating them to, for instance, German, which sometimes happens with movies or series and that kind of stuff. I feel, at least in most cases, when that happens, it feels weird and clumsy and forced in a way. Sometimes it works, yes it does, but other times, you know, just let Jon Snow be Jon Snow in German. He doesn't have to change to Jon Schnee. No, please. The last line could also be expressed the other way around, meaning exactly like the original in English, but I went with the one where the subordinate clause, der Nebensatz, comes first and the actual main clause, der Hauptsatz, comes second. It's something you'd rather find in written German and therefore it really fits the lyrical context. Now to the, in my opinion, great chorus. Und ich sagte, dass ich von den Lichtern geblendet bin. Nein, ich kann so lange nicht schlafen, bis ich deine Berührung spüre. Ich sagte, ich ertrinke in der Nacht. Wenn ich so drauf bin, bist du der or die Einzige, dem or der ich vertraue. Some pretty interesting linguistic details here. You might be wondering why I chose a different type of expression in the first line as opposed to the third line, which has a similar structure to the original English one. Both lines could be expressed equally, like in both ways here, because there are different ways Germans could express these types of sentences. The first common one in German is the first option with the subjunction das. What did I say? I said that I'm blinded by the lights. Was sagte ich? Ich sagte, dass ich von den Lichtern geblendet bin. Or, a bit less common in comparison, ich sagte, ich bin von den Lichtern geblendet. I said I'm blinded by the lights. Well, just look away or wear some shades then. Duh. More than it's the case in English, this different type of syntactical structure also correlates with the placement of the verbal parts. Bin geblendet, am blinded versus geblendet bin, blinded am, so to speak. The last line basically shows the fundamental difference between the English article, the, and the various German articles in a nutshell. Since we don't know anything about the person the lyrical eye is singing about or to, including their gender, there's no way we can decide on a particular German article here. That isn't a problem in English, of course, where you'd simply use the, but in German it would have to be a different article depending on the actual person's gender, or the grammatical gender, therefore. We could choose der for masculine nouns or men, or die for feminine nouns or women, or das for neuter nouns and objects. That's the basic outline here, which is why I mentioned two options in the last line and their respective inflected or declined dative singular forms, dem for the masculine one and der for the feminine one. The second verse is shorter than the first one, which is pretty common when it comes to dynamics of songs, arrangements and that kind of stuff, because it really leads you into the chorus real quick and quicker than before. So, since that's the climax, it actually makes sense. In a structural way, I guess. Mir läuft die Zeit davon, weil ich sehen kann, wie die Sonne den Himmel erleuchtet. Daher fahre ich auf Hochtouren, baby. In the second line, I added the subjunctive wie, how or like, which can also simply work as a common connective term in other kinds of sentences. Ich fühle mich wie Batman. I feel like Batman. Technically, you could also express both lines separately, but usually the subjunction weil is limited to subordinate clauses. I say usually because in recent decades, Germans have tended towards using weil as an introduction to main clauses extremely often as well, especially in spoken German. Wrong grammatically speaking, yet the common and basically, by now, standard way of using that term. Nowadays. Doesn't matter if it's formal or informal, by the way. The last line was a bit tricky, not only because the phrase to hit the road can't really be translated to German that well, literally. It would rather turn to ich fahre los, to begin driving, I begin driving. Also the phrase in overdrive was quite tricky. I went with auf Hochtouren, which might be what comes closest to this one in German, I don't know. It basically means on high tours in English, literally speaking, implying being at a high speed at lots of revolutions per minute. Feel free to share my video if you enjoyed my translation and analysis, because, well, I sure did enjoy making this video, and I hope you learned something. The fun way, of course. So, thanks for watching everyone, I'm your Vlog Dave, tschüss und bis zum nächsten Mal.